Download free photos, music, and more at TonyKlarich.com. You can use them for personal or commercial use. Riding the wave. In the early 1980s, water sports enthusiasts were excited about kneeboarding. The industry was pumping money into the market with new designs and an advertising blitz. More riders than ever were getting good on a kneeboard, and companies like Hydroslide, O'Brien, Connolly, and Ski Master were giving free product to the cream of the crop. The next logical step was competitions. Andy Ramey at Tunnelboard organized some of the earliest events in Texas. Next came Roland Hillier, the 1965 world overall champion in 3-event skiing. Hillier got into promoting tournaments just when the money started coming into the sport. He formed the International Kneeboard Association, IKA, and became the dominant force directing the events. The IKA competitions were the first to draw the world's best kneeboarders, initially from Florida and eventually from across the nation. Hillier was an innovative promoter, adding events that even novice riders could do. The original slalom event had riders weaving back and forth between a straight line of fixed buoys. To increase the difficulty, the boat went faster and faster. The original slalom course used by kneeboarders was a modification of the slalom course used by stand-up skiers in the earliest days of traditional competitions. Wake jumps were another kneeboarding event, much like wake crossings in barefoot competitions. A set time was given to do as many wake-to-wake crossings as possible, with or without a jump. The marquee kneeboarding event was tricks. The big moves were wake 360s and the newly invented backside roll. Ted Bevilacqua was the early favorite and star of the IKA. The self-described skinny little kid from Florida was big on skills and had an exuberant joy of riding. Ted's board never fit quite right, so he took an old guitar strap and all the Velcro he could find to piece together the first triple-locking kneeboard strap. It worked, and riders wanted them. Ted started Pro Aqua, the first company for aftermarket kneeboard products. Another one of Ted's innovative designs was the Pro Aqua binding. It was a horseshoe-shaped neoprene pad that riders glued onto the back of their existing pad for customized ankle support. The competition scene was heating up in Florida, and I badly wanted to test my skills against guys like Ted, Walt York, Mario Fosa, and Ramon Herrera. Uncle Mike was friends with Danny Churchill, so he introduced us. I signed with Hydroslide, who agreed to pay my expenses to the tournaments. My first kneeboard competition was in 1983 at the 3rd IKA Nationals on Lake Ivanhoe near Orlando, Florida. It was the first time someone traveled so far to come to an IKA event, and my presence helped the event actually live up to its name for the first time. Unfortunately, my equipment got misplaced by the airline and didn't make it in time for the tournament. I scrambled to borrow a rope, board, and vest, and my best finish was 3rd place in tricks. My gear finally arrived at the hotel that night, just in time for my first exhibition on the Coors Light Pro Water Skiing Tour. Danny Churchill set it up through Hydroslide, who was a sponsor of the tour. It was my biggest show so far, and the demonstration was even more of a rush than performing as a show skier at Magic Mountain. For the first time, I was on the same water as my ski heroes, Sammy and Camille Duval, Bob LaPointe, Andy Mapple, Dina Brush. They were all there. The world's best skiers were battling it out, and all I had to do was a few jumps, wake helicopters, and flips to wow the crowd of several thousand. Any invert on the kneeboard was still a novelty that people were excited to see. For most, it was the first time they ever saw someone flip a kneeboard in person. For ski fans who couldn't make the actual event, the whole thing was broadcast on cable television. Joining up with Danny Churchill and Hydroslide was the right move to get big exposure. This included some serious ink in the trade magazines. Danny pitched me as a package deal: top kneeboarder, show skier, and hot dogger. He used me in a good way to help promote Hydroslide through 2 national publications based on the West Coast. Powerboat magazine ran a feature story, including my first cover in April 1985. The 5-page spread featured kneeboarding and hot dog slalom skiing, both up-and-coming disciplines in the mid-1980s. I was once again following in my Uncle Mike's wake. He made the cover of Powerboat in June 1975. Danny also hooked me up with Trailer Boats magazine, which also ran a feature story in 1985 called Hydroslide Hot Doggin'. It ran with lots of pictures, including the first front flip sequence on a kneeboard. My grandpa was so proud, he plastered copies of those magazine pictures inside the walls of his red truck, right next to the articles about Mike. Woe to any gas station attendant who got a little too close to the shrine. The battle for control of the hearts and minds of competitive kneeboarders was heating up. Hillier had been promoting IKA events for several years, and he tried to use his position to direct and control the sport. That may not have been a bad thing, but it was a hard sell to exert authority over a sport that was based on a free-spirited attitude. Opinions differed greatly over what should happen and who should be in charge. In response to the debate, a group of dedicated kneeboard enthusiasts from the Midwest stepped in and created the American Kneeboard Association, AKA, in 1983. Lonnie Marchand, Chuck Purdy, Randy Andrus, and Richard Brown were on the initial board of directors. The AKA based their organization on the structure used by the American Waterski Association, AWSA, the governing body of water skiing in the United States. This put an established framework in place upon which to build. They used AWSA standards for training judges. There were now 3 instead of just 1, and certifying drivers and safety directors. The decision to follow AWSA guidelines changed event promotion from a one-man show to a cooperative effort. Between 1983 and 1985, riders were split over which events to attend, IKA or AKA. Some people took sides, and hard feelings were often the result. Regardless of the disagreements and power struggle for control of competitions, 2 associations meant that kneeboarding was getting popular. Riders all over the country practiced for tournaments, and skill levels skyrocketed. Events offered a gathering place for riders to learn from the sport's top athletes, show off new moves, and talk about the exciting future of kneeboarding. Roland Hillier stepped aside as the head of the IKA in the wake of hotly disputed results at the 1985 IKA Nationals. Many riders had had enough, and support for the IKA dwindled. The newly formed American Kneeboard Association was now the organization left to carry the torch for competitive kneeboarding.